What the hell are you?
Bite me!
What's the deal with murder drones? Hey guys, it's the Pink King here. Glitch have been on a roll recently, haven't they? With the continuing growing success of stuff like The Amazing Digital Circus and the announcement of a new series that they're working on. Things are only getting bigger and better with everything they seem to be doing now. But there's been one show from them that you guys have been begging for me to watch ever since I started looking at indie shows. And that's Murder Drones. Yeah, Murder Drones, one of Glitch's most popular series that came to an end only about 4 months ago. To me, I've only now seen the entire series, so what took me so long to actually get around to it? Well, to be honest, I just wasn't that interested by it at first. It seemed like another ambitious but ultimately overcomplicated indie project, so I didn't have any real interest at first, but a lot of you guys just kept telling me to watch it because it was worth the wait. So I ultimately decided to give it a shot. And now, after seeing it, I've only got more questions than I do answers. This series, despite being only 8 episodes with a running time of 20 to 25 minutes, manages to cram in so much content that it was a little overwhelming at times. And that mainly stems from just how fast this show is moving. We're constantly jumping from one thing to the next with very little breathing room, and doing this made me have a very confusing watching experience. I don't know if I'm stupid or not, but some things just didn't make sense in terms of progression. Like, why is Uzi suddenly transforming into a murder drone herself? What's the deal with telekinesis powers? And what company are they talking about? They clearly have a lot they want to get out there, but have difficulty actually getting it out. But despite the very fast pace, I surprisingly wasn't that annoyed by it. To me, this show seems to be something you're just supposed to experience and not question much about. It's not necessarily the deepest thing in the world, but it's not really trying to be. Ironically, I think the entire show represents the main character perfectly, with it being fast and all over the place, but with sincerity. And speaking of the characters, how are they? After all, this is the type of show where the characters are make it or break it for the show. And to me, I really liked most of them. Not all of them, I'll get onto that in a bit, but let's talk about the main trio. Uzi, N, and V were all characters who I took no interest in at first, like in the first episode, but surprisingly, each one grew on me as the series went along. With Uzi, the diva she is, being an absolute show stealer. She's very funny in how much she tries to act tough, but in reality is just a sweet little bot who wants to be loved. And even with N and V, they really help to add variety to the cast, with two very different personalities despite being based off, well, the same type of robot. But I will say, as cute as Uzi's and N's relationship was, I kind of feel like there wasn't enough time dedicated to them building that relationship. I really wanted to see more of a connection grow between them, but again, the series has so much in it wants to do, that this kind of got neglected a little bit, even though it still works, but barely. However, the characters I did not like were the villains, and it's not because they were necessarily bad, but it's mainly my biggest problem with the series, and that it's very sudden. The whole villain AI and it wanting to destroy the planet was sudden. It was out of nowhere. I wish that these villains got a natural inclusion, because I see how they could have really worked, but they ultimately fell flat to me because they just suddenly appear with not much explanation. Stuff is sort of just thrown in and you're just sort of expected to understand it right away. Are you enjoying the video? You better be. And if so, and you want more content just like this where I cover your favorite TV shows and movies, then be sure to subscribe. My goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and we just hit 6,000 subscribers already. So with your help, we can definitely hit that goal before 2025 comes to an end. Plus, not only would you be helping me reach my goals, but you'd be supporting me and helping me make these videos for you guys a lot faster. So, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of my videos, and with that, let's get back into the murder drones. This show feels like it was made for theorists over casual viewers, because I can definitely see why people wouldn't mind these things that I'm complaining about, because they can just go into depth on their own with their own theories and why everything is happening for what reason. But for someone like me who wants it to mainly be explained in the show, it's simply harder for me to actually enjoy it. And honestly, that's fine. That's completely fine. This show clearly knew who its target audience was and what to do in order to make it work for them. So while my issues with the show are valid, I think it mainly stems from the fact that this show was just not made for me, and that's completely fine. And although it wasn't made for me, I still really enjoyed a lot of what was in here. The music was absolutely fantastic. Not only were the songs really good, but the soundtrack as well. Each episode had a very haunting but sweet theme to it. It reminded me a lot of classic Tim Burton soundtracks and how they had an eerie creepiness to them, but weren't that scary. Speaking of scary, this show definitely is that. The amount of horror honestly caught me so off guard at first because it was done really well. The locations, the atmosphere, the monsters, it's all pretty good and really set the tone perfectly, and this was helped in large part to the show's fantastic animation. Because my god, the movements of the characters was really impressive, and the little details of how like the eye visors changed to include little jokes or the little gags all around to certain actions that the characters do, it was really quite perfect. They really put a lot of their effort into making sure the animation was as good as it can be, and that the humor was on point. I especially love the scene where Uzi and En are falling out the sky, and we see Uzi start to talk with her tail, and they just suddenly cut to them crashing to the earth as a normal conversation, and then it cuts to a crash. I don't know why, but that was absolutely hilarious to me. And of course, the fight scenes. Yeah, a lot of you guys have been talking about these fight scenes in particular when recommending this show, and I see why. They're so well shot and animated, you really feel the impact of certain hits and forces of the fight. It's very well done. So, after watching the show for myself, what is the deal with murder drones? And is it worth watching for people who haven't seen it yet? Well, to me, the show seems to be one made for a very specific audience. If you're someone who loves picking apart shows and adores animation, then this show is perfect for you. But if you're more of a casual viewer who has never heard of this show before, I'd still recommend it, but go in with caution. This show will not explain a lot to you, as I've said previously before, so go in just aware of that fact that it's not going to explain much to you and you might need to do a bit of homework online. It's a very goofy, if not intimidating series that probably needed more time in order to properly show the world and explain the characters fully, but it's still a blast that's worth a watch or two. And I for one hope they return to this world and its characters at some point in the future. I know the series has come to an end now, but I still think there's a lot you can do here, and I'd love to see them come back. But what do you guys think? Were you one of the people who loved the show, or were you someone who couldn't get into it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments on what you think, because I feel this show would give people many different opinions, and I want to see what your opinion is on it. And with that, peeps, it's been the Pink King here, and I will see you all next time.